my god, hi. It's so great seeing you. I'm Rudrani. Welcome to my place. This is my second ever YouTube video, and after the resounding success of my first, I decided to quit my job. I think I want to be a full-blown YouTuber. I think it was my destiny, and I just needed that push to really make that journey, you know? No joke, I did quit my job. Not for this, but I think I should do like a tell-all about Sonic, because I could write novels. I could be fucking Homer and write the next Odyssey about the Odyssey that was my employment, that stupid little store. But a little more on topic, I have a hot take. Am I crazy? Or is pausing to take a little selfie mid-cry kind of hot? Right? Like, it's a little hot. Furthermore, my question is, how hot is it to post them? Because I personally think that's cringe. I'm not gonna do that. Like, you'll catch me do a little when I cry. I feel like everyone does. I do. But you're not gonna see me, like, on my Instagram story, like, my day has been so bad. But a lot of people do that. No, Bella Hadid loves posting crying selfies. And I think people do this a little less than they used to because it's cringe. But at the same time, I feel like we see people doing this 24/7 on, like, TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts if you're a freak, like, whatever you're on. Or every now and then I'll, like, get on, like, some app and I'll just see a video of somebody just, like, rocking back and forth, having some kind of, like, exorcist experience. And
I get up and then all day I'm tired and I want to take a nap all day. I have no motivation. I don't want to do anything.
it's just, what's going on? What's the context? Tell me, I'm invested. But you don't get to know. To me, it's a little weird because I always feel like crying is really vulnerable, right? Like, it's intimate. It's something you do alone, in the dark, when no one's watching. Those are the rules. But maybe they aren't the rules, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's beautiful. Maybe crying is sadness. Maybe sadness is hot. Okay, so obviously this isn't just about sad girl selfies, though it could be. We don't know. But it's really about, like, romanticizing and publicizing sadness itself, which is such a Gen Z phrase, I realize. I feel like the word romanticize itself is so Gen Z, but also saying speaking is so corny. Like, is having opinions cringe? But I do think we see a lot of this romanticization of sadness in media and how the audience classifies said media. But before I actually start explaining all of that, which I will, maybe, I want to have a few disclaimers. I know nothing. I am just a girl. In fact, it says that on my shirt. Hold on. It says it. Now you know. Tangible proof. Thirdly, and most importantly, please be nice to me. Let's get into it. Woo. So I'm specifically talking about, like, the mass market appeal of quote-unquote sad girl shit. Like, film, literature, music, whatever. It's there. It's always there. Get on your Letterboxd, your Goodreads, your Spotify. Like, look up the words sad girl. Thousands of playlists, of lists, of whatever. And to the point where it's things that don't even relate. I don't think this is something new, but I think it's never been as popular as it is now. So some pop culture references of this, like, sad girl niche, I think would be just Sophia Coppola films. I think one is alright. The Bell Jar, Mitski, Girl in Red, Girl Interrupted, Phoebe Bridgers, Fleabag, Sally Rooney, My Hero, Rest of Relaxation, Vocal Enough More by Taylor Swift, Lady Bird, and so on and so forth. Now, a couple things I want to point out. The sad girl term isn't something these creators and these artists chose. It's something that's kind of been handed to them. And I'm not using it to diminish their work or these pieces of art I named. All of what I named are quite literally my favorite things ever. Like, I listed my favorite books, musicians, whatever. Like, if you look on this wall behind me, we've got a shit ton of Taylor Swift. We've got some Lana Del Rey right here. We have Sophia Coppola right here. Like, I am talking about myself. This is glass houses, I swear to God. Like, I am throwing stones in the mirror. Just, like, I'm genuinely not trying to diminish any of these things. I just feel like it's important to, like, talk about. It's not important. I just wanted to talk about it. You have to deal with it. Sorry. They also don't all deal with the same subject matter or same themes. They're all genuinely really different things, but they're often grouped together in the audience's eyes. So I think for like the culture, they're seen as one kind of amalgamation of like a certain kind of person, kind of art, kind of whatever. And one big common criticism to keep in the back of your mind throughout this is that these kind of stories and music and whatever often focuses on white women specifically. And this is a valid criticism, but not one I'm really going to focus on today, but just keep it in mind. And with that criticism, I want to point out the other side of it, which is that this doesn't mean the stories and themes are only going to resonate with white people and that they're not still important. Like I said, I love this stuff. What's the appeal? Why is people being sad and embarrassing so interesting to us? Obviously, the stuff is like relatable and well made. No one wants to hear like bad, sad. Well, Nessa Barrett fans exist, I guess.
I don't know. I think I'm just like a very broken person trying to live life.
But it goes further than just being popular. A musician's saddest era is often the one that like is the most beloved, both critically and by fans. I think the most obvious example I can think of is Ariana Grande. She said it herself, her highest point professionally was her lowest personally. Fans normally do want artists to go back to the sadder era. They want it back despite knowing the pain it caused. Now this could be because they can no longer relate to this person once they've grown past the rut that people are still stuck in. But aside from just being a lack of empathy, it also feels like a desire to see this pain, almost a sadistic desire to see others in pain because it makes you feel better about your own. Because that pain can then be beautiful. Someone else can make your own pain beautiful for you. And I don't think that's a hot take. People love misery, or misery loves company, or whatever that saying is. The question is, what about this is so appealing? And I think it's important to note that the most popular form of this sadness isn't ever crossing the line into outrageous. It's never like a batshit crazy, I'm gonna like kill a whole town of people. Like, it's a lot more serious than that every time. And it's a lot more contained than that every time. It's this really safe kind of sadness that only ever really harm the people that are experiencing it. It doesn't leave the little bubble that it's meant to be in, so it feels safe. White women being the face of this genre is a big part of that, because it makes it feel palatable to general audiences. But it is more than just palatable, right? It's beautiful, it's hot, it's sexy, it's cool. And I think we can see this a lot in film and TV, where you see this beautiful woman who is at the end of her rope and she finally breaks and a single teardrop or just a downpour of tears comes out. Yet, this scene will undoubtedly end up in some cute little edit anyway.
Heart to heart.
And honestly, these edits are fire. They go hard. Like, I love these edits. I'm sorry, I have a shit ton saved. I can't lie. But, like, it's cool and it's hot and, like, it just makes it hard to care that the stories depicted are sad because, like, it's sad in a hot way. Like, it's cool. It speaks to the soul or whatever. But I think, and I think you'd probably agree, that in reality it leads to the heavy romanticization of these depressive periods of a person's life and often romanticizes the trauma and struggle itself. It makes it feel like if you aren't dealing with some of these issues, if you're not going through something, you can't have that life. Like, your life isn't interesting. And a lot of these things can be traced way back to, like, I guess most recently traced back to, like, the Tumblr 2014 era, or even Twitter, Instagram at the time, when everyone wanted to have some kind of problem, which we see even more so now, because the aesthetics and all of it made being sad cool. And that really hasn't gone away. And I did just point out Tumblr 2014 once again. It's like, I'm sorry, that's my Pinterest board. Glass houses. But you see this kind of aesthetic in a different form now, right? We see it in, like, coquette core or whatever else exists. And while it might look different, it's still rooted in a really sad history and celebrates sadness with just, like, bows and shit. The concept of coquette specifically obviously stems a lot from, like, Lolita, the novel, and if you're illiterate, the movie. Hot take, I don't think kids can read anymore. That has nothing to do with anything. I just feel like I should share. Anyway, I think this, like, coquette Lolita aesthetic celebrates a girl who is delicate and beautiful and desirable and victimized. Victimized is the key thing here, because she's a victim of trauma, yes, but aside that, she's a victim of her own sadness. And that is what makes her interesting. Other versions can be a Gone Girl-esque femcel, where like the inspiration is angry and violent.
You think I'd let him destroy me and end up happier than ever? No fucking way. I'm in.
And while it may seem like a stretch that people are gonna get really inspired by and like go full Amy Dunn or whatever her name was, it's fair to question what about that rage is so attractive and compelling. Obviously a part of it is lashing out against like an oppressive system and the patriarchy and blah blah blah, but most would agree that the reverse, or misandry, isn't ideal either. Yet this like quote-unquote femcel group is celebrated for this vitriol and this like nihilistic misandry and self-destructive tendencies, because girl, the impact of the idolization of this aesthetic isn't hard to see. That was a really hard sentence to say, but basically my point is everyone, or a lot of women, I feel like, have this almost generational rage just cooped up inside of them, and seeing somebody just go batshit crazy and like destruct is so appealing. But when it's romanticized and never discussed in a nuanced way, and it's just boiled down to that's cool, instead of dealing with the root of these issues, which is more of a structural thing, and taking out your anger on the structure itself, it ends up that this anger is taken out on individuals. It makes it worse. This anger is used to make yourself feel so cool, but it's just hurtful. As blogger Rain Fisher-Kwan writes, girls rationalize their own suffering through the romanticization of those who have suffered before. And in turn, we provide a blueprint for the hot girl suffering of those after. By that, I mean, when we look from back in the day with Virginia Woolf to like Sylvia Plath to the Tumblr girls, to the girls on TikTok now, we consistently show the women of the future that sadness can be hot. That maybe it's hotter than being happy because there's something stupid about it. For the longest time, we're told that women who make the choice to be happy are vacant because there's nothing artistic about happiness. And maybe we just think that because we're told that. Maybe we just think that because sadness is more vulnerable, it's more painful, and we're always told that pain is harder to write about, to talk about, blah, blah, blah. But when it feels like pain is the easiest thing to talk about, and it's all anybody is talking about, I'm starting to doubt that. I genuinely think that maybe it is harder for people to talk about, like, joy. I think a big problem that's gonna emerge with this is when we see people who look at this on a purely face-level aesthetic sense and use it as a ploy to make profit. The most recent example I can think of is The Idol, which had so many shots and themes that were just built for the sad hot girls of TikTok. And it didn't fully work, and I'm not going to keep talking about it because I think it's been talked about to death. But I think similar shows and media will emerge. Essentially, my theory is that we're going to see a ton of like hollow pieces of media, and they'll be created to fit into this algorithm that rewards hot, sad girls. But the sadness itself will be so vacant, it will fail to form any kind of like emotional connections. It'll fail to have anyone resonate with it. Still, people will profit. And more likely it's going to be men who profit. That's always how it is. So it'll be just more men profiting off the image of a beautiful woman with one tear running down her face. And no matter how empty it is, we've been told to love it anyway. Just because being sad is hot girl shit. I also think that people who really resonate and idealize with this kind of content have no other way of like tangibly addressing their issues. And I assume there's some level of issues. Because everyone has problems. But if you're telling me, like, dead ass, your favorite movies are Black Swan, Girl Interrupted, Gone Girl, I'm gonna assume there's something going on. Like, that, like, those are your top three. Something's up. And I think that's because that's their only way to cope with anything. Because much like the crying selfies, constantly talking about how you're so Lana Del Rey coquette feels a bit like a cry for help or a cry for attention. Additionally, this might be, in a way, and this is really sad honestly, it might be the main, like, the biggest form of mainstream representation for women with mental health issues. And that's a problem, but in mainstream media, there aren't a lot of options for women to depict stories of sadness without it being a beautiful one. It always has to be beautiful. It can't ever be outrageous. It has to be editable. It has to be clippable. It has to be hot. It looks like to people, the viewers, and that's the only way to feel your feelings. And this has the result of making real people feel fucked up for experiencing life in a far more real, gritty way while maintaining the same issues we see on screen. Because most people's sadness, most people's problems don't materialize like Effie from Skins. So, is sadness hot? I think yes. Most people might not admit to it, but they probably think so too. Because we've been told it is. Because it makes us feel seen. It makes people's problems feel beautiful instead of messy, and everyone wants their life to feel beautiful. And for some women, it may be the only way they know how to be. Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense. I was more so rambling than just saying anything real. But if you thought this wasn't like total dog shit, I can do more, or like a more structured version at some point. Let me know what you want to see. If you thought this was atrocious, then like you can tell me, but in a compliment sandwich form. Like, let me give you an example. Rudrani, you're so hot and sexy. You could script a little bit better though. Anyway, your voice is the voice of angels. And I'm so glad I actually trained myself to sound like you in my head so I can always hear you playing. That's kind of ideal actually. Like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching, though. I really appreciate that.
I'm in love with these Tumblr girls with skinny waists and drug habits. Pretty faces, love status.